I am 26 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my entire life has been organized around my older sister, Jessica. When we were children, if she wanted a toy, I was expected to give her mine. If she got a bad grade in school, my parents would ask what I did to distract her. She was the sun, and I was just a small, insignificant planet caught in her orbit. My mother was the worst enabler. To her, Jessica could do no wrong. Jessica was brilliant, beautiful, and destined for great things. I was just Chloe. Dependable, quiet, and useful. My usefulness was my primary function in the family. For the past 5 years, I had been working 2 jobs, saving every penny I could. My dream was not glamorous. I did not want a fancy car or designer clothes. I wanted a small condo, a place that was entirely my own, a place where no one could take my things or demand my space. I had finally managed to save $40,000. It was my everything. It was the physical manifestation of my sweat, my lost hours of sleep, and my sacrificed social life. This money was my future, my escape. The savings account was under a joint agreement with my mother. It was a foolish mistake, a relic from when I was a teenager and needed a cosigner. I had meant to change it a dozen times, but life always seemed to get in the way. I trusted my mother, or rather, I wanted to trust her. I never imagined she would betray that trust so completely. The family had been buzzing for months about a grand family reunion cruise. It was Jessica's idea, of course. She had envisioned a lavish trip through the Caribbean, a testament to our family's closeness. The price tag was astronomical. When they first brought it up, I told them clearly and politely that I could not afford it. I explained that I was saving for a down payment and that a luxury cruise was simply not in my budget. "Oh, honey, do not worry about it," my mother had said, patting my hand. "We will figure something out." Jessica had scoffed. "Some people just do not understand the importance of family memories," she had said, looking directly at me. I stood my ground. I would not be guilted into debt for a vacation I did not even want. They eventually dropped the subject with me, and I assumed they had accepted my decision. I thought I had finally drawn a boundary that they would respect. I was so naive. The betrayal came on a Tuesday morning. I was at my desk at my full-time job, sipping my coffee and reviewing spreadsheets. My phone buzzed with an alert from my banking app. I glanced at it, expecting it to be a notification about my direct deposit. Instead, a single line of text made my blood run cold. It said, "Withdrawal notification, $40, 00000." I stared at the screen, my mind refusing to process the numbers.
$42.
My entire savings.
Gone.
It had to be a mistake. A system glitch. A fraud alert. My heart started hammering against my ribs. I quickly logged into my full banking app, my fingers trembling so hard I could barely type my password. The screen loaded, and my savings account balance read $11,237. A wave of nausea washed over me. I felt dizzy, like the floor had dropped out from under me. I clicked on the transaction history. There it was. A single, massive transfer. The recipient was listed as Majestic Ocean Cruises. Below it, in the authorization notes, was a name I knew all too well. My mother's. I stood up from my desk and walked on shaky legs to the empty conference room. I needed to be alone. I needed to breathe. I leaned against the cool glass wall, trying to make sense of the impossible. She had done it. My mother had taken my money. She had taken my future and given it to a cruise line. I dialed her number. My hands were slick with sweat. She answered on the third ring, her voice cheerful and light. "Chloe, honey, what a nice surprise. Is everything okay?" she asked. I could not bring myself to make small talk. My voice came out as a strained whisper. "Mom, my savings account is empty." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. It was just long enough for me to know she was not surprised. "Oh, that," she said, her tone breezy and dismissive. "That must be for the cruise, dear. It is a family contribution. We all have to chip in for these things." The casualness of her words hit me like a physical blow. A family contribution. She said it as if she were talking about me bringing a casserole to a potluck, not draining my entire life savings without my permission. A contribution? I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. You took $40,000 from my account without asking me. That is not a contribution. That is theft. Now, do not be so dramatic, Chloe, she chided, her voice turning sharp. You know you would have said no if we asked. Jessica was so worried about how we would pay for everything, and I could not bear to see her so stressed. It is for the family. You should be happy to help us create these precious memories. I felt like I was going to be sick. Happy to help? She was twisting it, making me the villain. I was the selfish one for wanting to keep the money I had earned. I told you I could not afford it, I said, my voice rising. I told you I was saving for a house. You knew that. You knew what that money meant to me. A house can wait, she said impatiently. Family is forever. We will be gone for 2 weeks. I am sure we can talk about this more when we get back. Jessica has everything booked. It is going to be spectacular. She did not understand. Or maybe she did, and she just did not care. My dreams were disposable. My hard work was a resource to be tapped for my sister's whims. I could not think of anything else to say. The betrayal was so absolute, it left me speechless. I ended the call without saying goodbye. I stood in that empty conference room, the silence ringing in my ears, and I knew that something inside me had broken. The part of me that always tried to keep the peace, the part that always forgave them, was gone. In its place, something cold and hard was beginning to form. My first instinct after my mother hung up was to call my sister. I knew she was the architect of this whole thing. My mother was the tool, but Jessica was the hand that wielded it. I found her number in my contacts and pressed the call button, my thumb pressing so hard against the screen I thought it might crack. She answered with a smug, self-satisfied tone. Hello, Chloe, she said. It was not a question.
It was a statement.
She knew why I was calling. Jessica, what did you do? I asked, my voice dangerously low. I do not know what you are talking about, she said, the fake innocence in her voice making my skin crawl. You know exactly what I am talking about, I shot back. $40,000 from my bank account. Mom said it was for your family cruise. Oh, that, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Well, we all have to make sacrifices for the family. You should be thanking us. We are taking you on the trip of a lifetime. You are not taking me anywhere, I said through gritted teeth. I am not even going on this trip. And you did not make a sacrifice. You stole my sacrifice. You stole 5 years of my life. You are being so selfish, she whined, her voice rising to a familiar, petulant tone that had always worked on our parents. This is about creating memories. What is more important, some boring little condo or a beautiful family experience? You are just jealous because I have a family and a wonderful life, and all you have is your boring job. The cruelty of her words was stunning. She was not just taking my money. She was mocking my life, my choices, my dreams. That was the moment the last shred of familial obligation I felt toward her evaporated. I said, You are right, Jessica. I do not have what you have. For starters, I do not have a history of stealing from my own sister. She gasped dramatically. How dare you? Mom and I agreed this was the best way. You are part of this family, and you have a responsibility to contribute. It is not our fault you are so antisocial and never want to do anything fun with us. My responsibility is to myself, I said, my voice gaining strength. You and Mom made a very big mistake. The only mistake was thinking you would be grateful, she snapped. I have to go. I have some last-minute cruise shopping to do with my new funds. Have fun at work. She hung up on me. I stood there, phone in hand, shaking with a rage so pure it felt like ice in my veins. Grateful. She expected me to be grateful that she had stolen my future to fund her vacation. The audacity was breathtaking. I thought about all the times I had let her walk all over me, all the times I had swallowed my pride to keep the peace. That was over. They had pushed me too far. They thought I was weak. They were about to find out how wrong they were. I left the conference room and went back to my desk, but I could not focus on work. My mind was racing, replaying the conversations with my mother and sister over and over again. The casual cruelty, the entitlement, the complete disregard for me as a person. I packed up my things, told my boss I had a sudden family emergency, and walked out of the office. I could not sit there pretending everything was normal. My world had just been turned upside down. I drove to a nearby park and sat on a bench, staring at the trees. I needed to think. I needed a plan. My first real call was to my best friend, Liam. He had known me since college and had witnessed my family's dynamics firsthand. He was the only person I knew would understand the full scope of this betrayal. He picked up on the second ring. "Chloe? What is up? You sound terrible," he said immediately. Tears I had been holding back started to fall. I told him everything. The bank alert, the empty account, the phone calls with my mom and Jessica. I explained how they called it a contribution and expected me to be grateful. Liam was silent for a moment after I finished, and I could practically feel his anger radiating through the phone. "They did what?" he finally exploded. "Chloe, that is not just messed up. That is illegal. That is grand larceny. You need to call the police." "I cannot do that, Liam," I whispered. "She is my mom. She stopped being just your mom when she stole $40,000 from you," he said, his voice firm. "But okay. I get it. You do not want to send your own mother to jail. So, what are you going to do? You cannot just let them get away with this." "I do not know," I admitted, feeling helpless. "They have all the power. The money is gone. The cruise is booked. They're leaving in 2 weeks." "No, they do not have all the power," Liam insisted. "You have the truth. And you need to get proof. Hard proof. You need to find out exactly how they did this and what they booked. You need details. Do you have access to the joint account online?" "Yes," I said, my mind starting to clear a little.
He was right.
Crying on a park bench was not going to solve anything. I needed information. "Okay, first thing," he said, his voice taking on a strategic tone. "Log into that account right now. Take screenshots of the withdrawal. Get the exact transaction ID, the time, the recipient. Document everything. Second, you need to get that joint account closed and open a new one in your name only, at a completely different bank. Do that today." His practical advice was like a lifeline. It gave me something to focus on besides the swirling vortex of anger and hurt. "What about the cruise?" I asked. "How do I even begin to deal with that?" "You need to get the booking information," he said. "The confirmation number, the itinerary. Everything. They will not give it to you willingly, so you have to be smart. You need to find a way in." A thought sparked in my mind. A faint memory of an email I had ignored. "Wait a second," I said, sitting up straighter. "A few weeks ago, my mom forwarded me an email. I think it was from Jessica. The subject line was something about the cruise. I never even opened it. I just deleted it because I did not want to think about it." "Go find that email, Chloe," Liam said, his voice urgent. "Go to your deleted items folder right now. That could be your smoking gun." I ended the call with Liam and immediately opened my laptop, which was in my work bag. I connected to my phone's hotspot and logged into my email account. My heart was pounding as I navigated to the trash folder. I scrolled down, my eyes scanning the subject lines. And then I saw it. Forward, family cruise finalized. It was sent from my mother's account 3 weeks ago. I clicked on it. My hands were shaking as I read. It was a long email chain originating from my sister, Jessica. The most recent message was from Jessica to my mother and her husband, Mark. I read the words, and the cold, hard knot in my stomach tightened. "Mom," Jessica had written, "I have finalized all the bookings. The total came to a little over 40,000. I have attached the full invoice from the cruise line. All you need to do is move the money from Chloe's savings account to pay the final balance. It is better if you just do it. She will be difficult if we ask her, and we do not have time for her drama. She will get over it. It is for the family, after all. She owes us this." My breath hitched. She owes us this. They had discussed it, They had planned it. They had rationalized the theft in cold, calculated terms. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a conspiracy. Attached to the email was the full booking confirmation from Majestic Ocean Cruises. It had everything: the booking reference number, the names of all 10 passengers, the cabin numbers for their 5 luxury suites, the dates of travel, the full itemized list of charges. The total cost was $11237. My entire savings, plus a little extra they must have figured my checking account could cover. I scrolled through the details of their trip, a trip paid for with my future. They had booked the Prestige Royal Suites, which came with a personal butler and a private balcony with a hot tub. They had purchased the ultimate beverage package for all the adults, allowing them unlimited premium alcoholic drinks. They had booked a series of shore excursions that sounded like they were straight out of a movie: a private helicopter tour over a volcano, a day trip on a chartered catamaran with a personal chef, a deep-sea fishing expedition. The worst part was a special note in the itinerary for the 5th night of the cruise. It was a reservation at the most exclusive restaurant on the ship. The captain's table, the note next to it read, "Jessica and Mark's 10th anniversary celebration dinner. They were planning to toast their marriage with champagne bought with my stolen money." I felt a profound sense of violation. They had not just taken my money, they had laughed about it. They had plotted how to best handle my drama. They had treated me and my hard-earned savings as an obstacle to be managed, not a person to be respected. Liam was right. This email was the smoking gun. It was the proof I needed. I saved the email as a PDF. I took screenshots of every part of it. I felt the anger inside me solidifying into something else: resolve. They had started this war, but I was going to be the one to finish it.
They thought they had won.
They thought I would just get over it. They had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. The quiet, dependable Chloe they had always known was gone for good. Armed with the booking reference number from the email, I knew my next step was to contact the cruise line. I could not go in guns blazing. I had to be strategic, just like Liam said. I needed more information, and I needed to confirm that the booking was as real and as extravagant as the invoice suggested. I went home, sat at my kitchen table, and took a few deep breaths to calm my nerves. I had to sound professional, detached. I looked up the number for Majestic Ocean Cruises and dialed. A cheerful voice answered. "Thank you for calling Majestic Ocean Cruises. This is Sarah. How can I help you today?" I pitched my voice to sound calm and slightly rushed, like a busy assistant. "Hello, Sarah. I am calling on behalf of my boss, Karen Miller. I am her executive assistant. She asked me to call and confirm some details for her upcoming family trip." "Of course," Sarah said pleasantly. "Do you have the booking reference number?" "I do," I said, reading the number from the PDF I had saved. "It is MOC 7492B. I heard the clacking of a keyboard on the other end. "Okay, I have it right here," she said after a moment. "The Miller family booking. Sailing on the Majestic Star on the 15th of this month. Is that correct?" "That is the one," I confirmed, my heart starting to beat a little faster. It was real. "Excellent," she said. "What information did you need to confirm?" "My boss, Mr. Miller, was just a little concerned about the final payment." I lied smoothly. "She wants to make sure everything is paid in full and that there are no outstanding balances. It is a big trip for them, and she wants everything to be perfect." "I can certainly check that for you," Sarah said. I heard more typing. "Yes, I can confirm the booking is fully paid. The total amount of $40,112.37 was received 3 days ago. There are no outstanding charges on the account. They are all set to sail." Hearing the exact amount spoken aloud by a stranger sent another jolt of anger through me. "That is wonderful news," I said, keeping my voice even. "Thank you for checking. One last thing. Could you just confirm the primary contact information on the booking? My boss is terrible with technology and wants to make sure any updates are going to the right place." "Of course," Sarah said. "The lead passenger is Karen Miller. The primary email address on file is karenmiller@email.com. She read out my mother's email address. And the primary contact phone number is," she read out a number. It was not my mother's number. It was Jessica's. That was a critical piece of information. Jessica had made herself the primary phone contact. That meant any calls from the cruise line, any alerts, any last-minute changes would go directly to her. It was another layer of their deception, ensuring my mother was just the name on the account while Jessica controlled the flow of information. My mind was racing. I had to get control of this booking. That is perfect, I said. Thank you so much for your help, Sarah. You have been very helpful. You are very welcome, she replied. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? An idea was forming in my head. A risky one. Actually, yes, I said. This might be a silly question, but what is the cancellation policy on a fully paid booking like this? Not a silly question at all, Sarah said cheerfully. Since the booking is paid in full and we are outside the final penalty window, a cancellation at this point would result in a full refund. The funds would be returned to the original method of payment within 5 to 7 business days. My breath caught in my throat. A full refund. The money was not gone forever. It was just sitting there, waiting. And who would need to authorize a cancellation? I asked, trying to sound casual. The request would need to come from the lead passenger, Karen Miller, Sarah explained. We would need to verify her identity over the phone, or she could do it through the online booking portal. There it was. The roadblock. I was not Karen Miller. I could not authorize anything. I thanked Sarah again and hung up the phone. I leaned back in my chair, my mind spinning. I had the proof. I knew they had stolen the money. I knew they had booked an outrageously expensive trip. And now I knew the money was refundable. But it was all protected behind a wall that was my mother's identity. I had to talk to my mother one more time. I had to give her one last chance to do the right thing. I knew it was a long shot, but I had to try. I called her back that evening. She answered, and her voice was wary this time. Chloe? What is it now? She asked, the cheerfulness gone, replaced by irritation. Mom, we need to talk about this properly, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and reasonable. You cannot just take $40,000 from my account. I need that money back. We are not having this conversation again, she said dismissively. The trip is booked. It is done. It is for the family. It is not for the family, Mom. It is for Jessica. I corrected her. You stole my down payment for a house, so Jessica could have a fancy anniversary party on a cruise ship. Jessica deserves nice things, she snapped, her voice rising. She has given me 2 beautiful grandchildren. She works so hard to maintain her home. You have no idea how much pressure she is under. I could not believe what I was hearing. And I do not work hard? Those 2 jobs I worked for 5 years. Was that not hard work? The holidays I missed, the nights I stayed in to save money. Does none of that matter? You are single and you have no children, she said, as if that explained everything. Your responsibilities are different. It is easier for you to contribute. Honestly, Chloe, I am very disappointed in your attitude. You are being incredibly selfish and ungrateful. This conversation was going nowhere. She was never going to see my side. She was trapped in a world where Jessica was the center of the universe. I decided to change tactics. I had to get the login information. Fine, I said, pretending to sound defeated. If I cannot have the money back, can I at least see what you spent it on? Can you give me the login for the cruise website? I just want to see the itinerary. There was a long pause. I could hear her thinking, probably trying to figure out my angle. I do not have that, she said finally. Jessica handled all the online stuff. It is all very complicated. You would not understand it. Then can you ask Jessica for it? I pressed. No, she said firmly. I am not going to bother her with this. She is busy packing and getting the children ready. We are leaving soon, and I will not have you ruining this for her with your negativity. We'll discuss this when we get back. Goodbye, Chloe. She hung up on me, but she had given me exactly what I needed. She had refused to give me the login. She had refused to let me have any access or control. She had shut the door, thinking she was locking me out. In reality, she had just given me the justification for what I was about to do next. She had confirmed that they were going to block me at every turn. Playing by the rules was not going to work. It was time to make my own rules. The refusal from my mother was the final push I needed. There would be no reasoning with her. There would be no appeal to fairness or family loyalty. They had built a fortress around my stolen money, and the only way in was through deception. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. The path forward was clear, even if it was a dark one. I waited a full day before I made the next call. I needed to let my anger cool and my resolve harden.
I practiced what I was going to say.
I even tried to mimic my mother's slightly higher-pitched, slightly more hesitant way of speaking. I told myself I was not just getting my money back. I was taking back my power. I dialed the Majestic Ocean Cruises number again. This time, when the operator answered, I took a deep breath. "Hello," I said, my voice a little shaky, which I hoped would add to the effect. "My name is Karen Miller. I am calling about my upcoming booking." "Of course, Mr. Miller," the agent, a man named David this time, replied. "How can I help you today?" "Well, it is a bit embarrassing," I began, trying to sound flustered. "I am not very good with computers, you see. My daughter set everything up for me online, and I seem to have completely forgotten the password to log into my booking. I was hoping you could help me." "I can certainly help with that," David said kindly. "I just need to verify your identity first for security purposes. Can you please confirm the full name and date of birth of the lead passenger?" I gave him my mother's name and her date of birth, which I knew by heart. "Karen Elizabeth Miller, October 24th, 1968, I said.
"Perfect," he said.
"And can you confirm the billing address associated with the booking?" I gave him my parents' address, the one I had grown up in. He typed for a moment. "Excellent, that all matches. Now, I have two options for you. I can send a password reset link to the email address on file, or, if you would like, I can ask you a couple more security questions, and we can reset the password for you right here over the phone." This was the critical moment. If he sent the link, it would go to my mother's email, and she would know something was up. I had to get him to do it over the phone. "Oh, the phone would be much better," I said quickly. "Like I said, I am just useless with all this email nonsense. I never know where anything goes." "Not a problem at all," he said patiently. "I just need to ask you one more question from your security file. What is the name of your first pet?" My mind went blank for a split second. My mother's first pet. I racked my brain, trying to remember childhood stories. Then it came to me. A scruffy little terrier she had when she was a girl.
"Fluffy," I said.
It was a dog named Fluffy. I held my breath. There was a pause, and then David's cheerful voice came back on the line. "That is correct. You have been successfully verified, Mr. Miller. What would you like your new password to be?" A wave of triumphant adrenaline surged through me. I had done it. I was in. I gave him a new password, something complex and memorable only to me. He confirmed that the password had been updated. I thanked him profusely, laying on the helpless older woman, act a little thicker, and then hung up. I immediately went to the Majestic Ocean Cruises website. I clicked on the Manage My Booking link. I entered the booking reference number and the new password I had just created. The page loaded, and suddenly, I was looking at the entire anatomy of their betrayal, laid out in glossy, high-definition detail. It was so much worse than I had imagined. The invoice had listed the items, but the portal showed them. There were pictures of the royal prestige suites, with their marble bathrooms and sprawling balconies. There were vibrant photos of the excursions they had planned, smiling couples on a helicopter, a happy family on a private yacht, a serene woman getting a hot stone massage. I clicked through every tab, every link. I saw the passenger list again. 10 names. My father, whose silence was its own form of complicity. My mother, the thief. Jessica, the mastermind. Mark, her smug husband. Their 2 children, who were innocent in all this, but were being taught a terrible lesson in entitlement. My aunt and uncle and my 2 cousins who probably had no idea how this trip was being funded. My name was nowhere to be seen. They had not even entertained the thought of including me. They did not just want my money, they wanted me out of the picture entirely. The level of detail was sickening. I could see their dinner reservations. I could see the show tickets they had pre-booked. I could see the spa appointments. Jessica had a full Queen for a Day package scheduled, which included a facial, a massage, a manicure, and a pedicure. My mother was booked for a similar, slightly less extravagant package. They had planned to spend 2 weeks pampering themselves using the money I had bled for. I sat there for what must have been an hour, just clicking and reading, letting the cold, hard reality of their actions sink in. They were not just thoughtless. They were malicious. They had built this perfect, luxurious fantasy on a foundation of lies and theft.
My theft.
There was no doubt left in my mind about what I had to do. Any lingering guilt, any thought of reconciliation, was burned away by the sheer, unadulterated arrogance on that screen. They had left me with nothing. I was going to return the favor. I closed the laptop. I had all the information and all the control I needed. Now, all I had to do was wait for the perfect moment to burn their fantasy world to the ground. The next 2 weeks were some of the longest of my life. I had to play a part, the part of the defeated daughter who had accepted her fate. It was an exercise in extreme self-control. The family group chat, which I had muted but not left, was a constant stream of excited chatter. Only 10 more days. I can almost taste the mojitos. Jessica posted, followed by a string of cocktail emojis. My mother would reply, I just bought the most beautiful sundress for the captain's dinner. Can't wait for you all to see it. They posted pictures of their cruise haul. New swimsuits, sunscreen, fancy hats. Mark posted a picture of his new noise-canceling headphones, captioning it, ready to tune out the world for 2 glorious weeks. The irony was so thick, I could have choked on it. Every message was a fresh stab of betrayal, but it also fueled my resolve. They were so confident, so utterly convinced that they had gotten away with it. They saw my silence as submission. I would occasionally reply to a direct question from my dad or aunt with a non-committal sounds nice, or a simple thumbs-up emoji. My lack of engagement seemed to make them slightly uneasy, but their excitement quickly overshadowed any concern. One evening, my mother called me. Her tone was cautiously optimistic, as if she were testing the waters. Chloe, honey, she started, I know you were upset, but I hope you can see this is for the best. The whole family is just buzzing with excitement. It's bringing everyone closer. I'm glad everyone is happy, I said, my voice flat and emotionless. We will do something special for you when we get back, she offered. A hollow promise I knew she would never keep. Maybe we can all go out for a nice dinner to celebrate your house savings. The audacity of that statement almost made me laugh out loud. Celebrate my house savings? The savings she had stolen? I just said, okay, Mom. Good, she said, relieved. I knew you'd come around. You've always been the reasonable one. She hung up, satisfied that she had smoothed things over. She had mistaken my silence for forgiveness. It was a fatal error in judgment. During this waiting period, I took care of my own business. I went to a new bank, one my family had no connection to, and opened a new checking and savings account under my name only. It felt liberating. I set up new direct deposits from my jobs. I also made an appointment with my old bank for the day the refund was scheduled to hit, to formally close the joint account forever. I was systematically cutting every financial tie that bound me to my mother. Liam was my constant support system. We met for coffee every few days, and I would update him on my plan. Are you sure you want to wait until they're there? He asked me during one of our meetings. You could just cancel it now and be done with it. No, I said, shaking my head. That's not enough. Canceling it now, they would be disappointed. They would be angry. But they would be angry from the comfort of their own homes. They wouldn't lose anything but the trip. I want them to lose more. I want them to be stranded. I want them to feel a fraction of the helplessness I felt when I saw my bank account was empty. They need to be at the cruise terminal with all their luggage, with all their expectations, and have it all fall apart. They need to be publicly humiliated. Liam looked at me, a slow smile spreading across his face. You know, he said, I've always known you were strong, but this is a whole new level. I'm kind of proud of you. His words meant more to me than he knew. He saw what I was doing not as petty revenge, but as a necessary act of self-preservation. A few days before their departure, I got a call from an unexpected person, my Aunt Diane, my mother's sister. She was always the more level-headed of the two. She was going on the cruise with her husband, but I knew she was not like my mother and Jessica. "Chloe, dear, I was just chatting with your mother," she began, her voice warm but with an undercurrent of concern. "She mentioned that you had made a very generous contribution to help pay for this trip. I wanted to call and say that was an incredibly kind thing to do, especially since I know how hard you've been working to save for your condo." My moment had come. This was my chance to plant the seed of doubt, to let a trusted family member know that the official story was a lie. I could have thrown my mother and sister under the bus completely, but I chose my words carefully. "Aunt Diane," I said, my voice quiet. "I appreciate you calling, but I think Mom might have misspoken. It wasn't exactly a contribution." "Oh," she said, and I could hear the confusion in her voice. "What do you mean, dear?" "She was very clear that you'd given the money from your house fund." "The money was taken from my house fund," I clarified gently. "But it wasn't given. I didn't find out about this contribution until after my entire savings account had been emptied. I was never asked." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. "She took the money without asking you?" Aunt Diane whispered, sounding horrified. "All of it. All of it," I confirmed. $42,000. "My goodness, Chloe," she stammered. I had no idea. Karen made it sound like you had offered. Like you were happy to do it." "I know that's the story she's telling," I said sadly. "I just wanted you to know the truth. I don't want to cause a big family drama right before your trip, but I couldn't let you think that I would just give away my entire future like that." "No, of course not," she said, her voice filled with a new, steely anger. "This is not right, Chloe. This is very, very wrong. I am going to have a word with your mother." "You can if you want to," I said. "But please, don't let it ruin your vacation. It's already been paid for. Just be aware that things are not as they seem." "Thank you for telling me, Chloe," she said sincerely. "I am so sorry this happened to you." We hung up, and I knew I had just armed myself with a powerful ally. When everything fell apart, Aunt Diane would know who was telling the truth. She would be my witness. The final pieces of my plan were falling into place. All that was left to do was wait for departure day. The morning of their flight arrived, a bright, sunny Saturday. It felt poetic. The perfect day for a perfect vacation that was never going to happen. My phone buzzed with notifications from the family group chat. They were on their way to the airport. My dad posted a picture of the stack of suitcases by their front door. Jessica posted a selfie of her and Mark in the car, sunglasses on, beaming. "Paradise, here we come," she wrote. I felt a strange, detached calm. I made myself a pot of coffee and sat at my kitchen table, watching their journey unfold on social media. They checked in at the airport. They posted pictures of their boarding passes, first class, of course. My mother sent a picture of the family gathered in the airport lounge, raising glasses of champagne in a toast. "Cheers to family," the caption read. I saved a screenshot of it. I tracked their flight online. I watched as the little airplane icon took off from the runway and began its journey south. The moment the flight status changed to in air, I knew they were powerless. They were trapped in a metal tube 30,000 feet in the air, with no internet access and no way to stop what was coming. It was time. I opened my laptop and logged into the Majestic Ocean Cruises portal. The booking was still there, a monument to their greed, shining and pristine. My heart was pounding, a steady, heavy drumbeat in my chest. This was the point of no return. I navigated to the Manage My Booking section. My eyes scanned the page until I found the link I was looking for. It was small, discreetly placed at the bottom of the page. Cancel booking. I moved the cursor over the link and clicked. A pop-up window appeared on the screen. "Are you sure you want to cancel this entire booking for the Miller party? This action cannot be undone." Below the text were two buttons, Confirm Cancellation and Go Back. I stared at the Confirm Cancellation button. I thought about my 5 years of work, my dream of a home, my sister's sneering voice, My mother's casual dismissal of my feelings. I thought about them all, sitting in their first-class seats, sipping champagne, thinking they had won. I clicked the button. The page refreshed. A new message appeared in bold, green letters. Your booking has been successfully canceled. A full refund of $40, 11237 will be processed to the original method of payment. Please allow 5 to 7 business days for the funds to appear in your account. An email notification pinged in my inbox almost instantly. It was the official cancellation confirmation from the cruise line. I saved it. A wave of relief, so powerful it almost made me dizzy, washed over me. The first, most important step was done. But I was not finished. The cruise itself was just the beginning. They had planned a trip filled with luxurious details, and I was going to erase every single one of them. I went back to the booking portal, which now showed the canceled status. However, the links to the individual itinerary items were still active. I clicked on shore excursions. The list appeared. The private helicopter tour over the volcano in St. Lucia. I found the little cancel button next to it and clicked. Cancelled. The chartered catamaran trip in Barbados. Cancelled. The deep-sea fishing trip my dad and uncle had been so excited about. Cancelled. The private beach club passes in Antigua. Cancelled. I went down the list, one by one, methodically and mercilessly, until every single shore excursion was gone. Next, I went to the Onboard Activities tab. I found the booking for the Queen for a Day spa package for Jessica. Cancelled. My mother's Relax and Rejuvenate package. Cancelled. Then, I found the reservation for the Captain's Table, the exclusive restaurant where Jessica and Mark were supposed to have their anniversary dinner. I clicked Cancel. A little note popped up asking for a reason. I typed one in. Change of plans. I went through everything. The premium drink packages, the prepaid gratuities, the show tickets. I dismantled their entire vacation, piece by piece, until nothing was left but a blank itinerary. I logged out of the portal and closed my laptop. A profound sense of peace settled over me. I had done it. I had taken back control. The trap was set. Now, all I had to do was wait for them to walk into it. I spent the rest of the day in a state of quiet anticipation. I cleaned my apartment. I went for a long walk. I made myself a nice dinner. I felt lighter than I had in years. That night, for the first time since I had seen the withdrawal notification, I slept soundly. I slept like a queen. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed and clear-headed. I knew the storm would break sometime in the late afternoon, once their flight landed and they made their way to the port. I spent the day trying to keep myself busy, but my eyes kept straying to my phone, waiting. At 3:47 p.m., it began. The first message was a text from Jessica. We're here. The port is huge. Can't wait to get on the ship. It was accompanied by a blurry picture of their mountain of luggage on a curb. I did not reply. I just watched the screen. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. At 4:15 p.m., my phone buzzed again. It was another text from Jessica. The tone had changed dramatically. Chloe, what the hell is going on? They're saying our booking doesn't exist at the check-in counter. My heart started to pound. This is it. I took a deep breath and typed my reply, keeping it simple and innocent. What booking? I thought you guys were handling everything. Her reply was almost instantaneous. A string of angry, misspelled words. Don't play dumb with me. The cruise. They said it's canceled. They can't find our names anywhere. Is this some kind of sick joke? I typed back calmly. That's really strange. Who had the login information for the website? Maybe you should check with them. I knew this would infuriate her, putting the responsibility back on her. Her response was a single, furious line. Mom is calling you right now. You better answer. A second later, my phone started ringing. The caller ID showed Mom. I let it ring 3 times before I answered, just to make her wait. I put the phone on speaker. Chloe Anna Miller, you tell me what you did right now. My mother's voice shrieked through the phone, so loud I had to pull it away from my ear. I could hear chaos in the background, angry voices, crying children, the general din of a crowded terminal. I switched my mindset. My voice became cold, calm, and deliberate. The present tense felt more fitting.
This is happening now.
Hello, Mom. It sounds like you've arrived, I say. Do not hello, Mom, me, she screams. They are telling us our reservation was canceled. They're saying we have no rooms. We are standing here with 10 people and all our luggage, and everyone is staring at us. You fix this immediately. My heart is pounding in my chest, a frantic bird beating against my ribs, but my voice is steady. There is nothing to fix, Mom, I say clearly. The trip that was booked using my stolen house deposit is, as you said, canceled. That is correct. There is a moment of stunned silence on the other end. I can practically hear her brain trying to process my words. The screaming I was prepared for. The calm confirmation she was not. Stolen, she finally sputters. It was not stolen. It was a family contribution. We talked about this. No, we did not talk about this, I reply, my voice like ice. You and Jessica talked about this. You took my entire life savings without my knowledge or my permission. That is the definition of stealing. I simply rectified the situation. You rectified it, she screeches, her voice cracking with hysteria. You have ruined everything. Jessica is in tears. The children are crying. What are we supposed to do? I don't know, Mom, I say, and for the first time, I feel a genuine sense of power over her. You are the parent. I am sure you will figure something out. Maybe you can book a different cruise. We cannot just book another cruise, she wails. Everything is sold out. And we do not have the money. You have the money.
Yes, Ido, I confirm.
Well, I will have it in 5 to 7 business days. It is being refunded to my account. The account that you will no longer have access to as of next week. I hear a commotion on the other end, and then a man's voice, angry and aggressive, comes on the line. It is Mark, my brother-in-law. Listen here, you selfish little brat, he snarls. I do not know what kind of game you think you are playing, but it is over. You're going to call that cruise line right now, you're going to tell them there has been a mistake, and you're going to reinstate this booking. Do you understand me? His attempt to intimidate me is pathetic. I am not the scared little sister-in-law anymore. No, Mark, I do not think I will be doing that, I say, my voice dripping with false politeness. And I would advise you to watch your tone. You are in no position to be making demands. You have no idea what you have just done, he threatens. Oh, I think I have a very clear idea, I counter. I have just prevented my family from taking a $40,000 vacation using stolen funds. I have also discovered a very interesting email where you, my sister, and my mother conspired to commit that theft. I am sure a lawyer would find that email very interesting. Dead silence. I had played my trump card. The email. The proof that this was not just a misunderstanding, but a premeditated act. Finally, my mother gets back on the phone, her voice no longer screaming, but pleading. It is a sound I have never heard from her before. Chloe, please, she begs. Please, just fix it. We will pay you back. I promise. We will figure it out. Pay me back with what? I ask bluntly. You do not have the money, or you would not have stolen mine in the first place. Your promises mean nothing to me anymore, Mom. You broke my trust completely. What about the family, she whimpers. What about all of us? You should have thought about that before you emptied my bank account, I say. You should have thought about what it would do to our family then. You, Jessica, and Mark made a choice. Now you have to live with the consequences. I take a breath. You are all stranded in a port city with no hotel reservations, no cruise, and no return flights booked for 2 weeks. That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. Have a wonderful vacation. And with that, I hang up the phone. I stare at the screen, my hand trembling slightly. It is done. The bomb had detonated. I sit in the silence of my apartment, and I wait for the fallout. The aftermath was exactly as chaotic as I had predicted. My phone immediately began to light up with a relentless barrage of calls and texts. My mother, Jessica,
Mark,
my dad, my uncle. They called over and over again. When I did not answer, the texts started pouring in. They ranged from furious and threatening to pleading and desperate. "You will regret this for the rest of your life." One from Jessica Reed. "Please, Chloe, the kids are exhausted. Just tell us what to do," came a text from my dad, the first time he had directly communicated with me about any of this. "You are a monster. You have ruined our anniversary," Mark sent. I read them all, one by one, feeling a strange sense of detachment. Their words could not hurt me anymore. I had taken away their power to do so. After about an hour of the constant buzzing, I simply blocked all of their numbers. The silence that followed was blissful. A few days later, just as the cruise line had promised, the money appeared in my joint account. The full $40, 11237. I did not waste a single second. I logged into my online banking and initiated an immediate transfer of the entire amount to my new, secure savings account at the new bank. Then, I transferred the remaining $112 to my new checking account, leaving the joint account with a perfect balance of $0. The next day, I went to my appointment at the old bank and signed the paperwork to formally close the account. The teller handed me a confirmation slip. I felt a profound sense of freedom as I walked out of that bank. It was over. The last financial link between me and my mother was severed. That evening, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I hesitated, then answered.
It was my Aunt Diane.
"Chloe? It is me," she said, her voice tired. "Hi, Aunt Diane," I said cautiously. "Are you guys okay?" She let out a long, weary sigh. "We're home," she said. "It was a nightmare. Your mother finally called me after you stopped answering your phone. She told me everything. Or her hysterical, twisted version of it, anyway." "What happened?" I asked. "Chaos," she said simply. "Absolute chaos. They tried to get rooms at a nearby hotel, but everything was booked because of the cruise ships. They ended up having to pay a fortune for 2 terrible, tiny rooms at a motel an hour away from the city. We all crammed in there for 2 nights. The kids were crying, Jessica was screaming at Mark, your mother was weeping hysterically. It was a disaster." I stayed silent, letting her talk. "They managed to book flights home," she continued, "but they were last minute and outrageously expensive. Economy class, with 3 layovers. They had to pay for it all on their credit cards. They probably spent thousands of dollars just to get stranded and fly home in misery. My husband and I booked our own flight and got out of there as fast as we could. I have never been so embarrassed in my entire life." "I am sorry you got caught in the middle of it, Aunt Diane," I said sincerely. "Do not you dare apologize," she said, her voice firm. "You did what you had to do. After you told me the truth, I confronted your mother at the airport. She and Jessica tried to lie, to say you were being dramatic and had agreed to it. But I saw the look on their faces. I knew you were telling the truth. What they did to you, Chloe, it was unforgivable. They are learning a very hard, very public, and very expensive lesson right now." Hearing that someone else in the family saw it from my perspective was an incredible validation. It was a relief I did not even know I needed. "Thank you, Aunt Diane," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You take care of yourself, dear," she said warmly. "And you go by that condo. You have earned it." We said our goodbyes. A few days after that conversation, a package arrived in the mail. It was a small box. Inside, I found a handwritten letter and a check. It was from my dad. "Chloe," the letter began, "there are no excuses for what happened. I stood by and let your mother and sister do something terrible, and I will have to live with that shame. I know that money cannot fix the hurt, but I wanted to give you this. It is from my personal account. Your mother does not know about it. Please use it for your house. I am so sorry for everything. Love, Dad." The check was for $1,000. It was not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it was the only apology I had received. It was a gesture that acknowledged my pain and their wrongdoing. I cried when I read his letter. It was a sign that maybe, just maybe, my father was not a lost cause. From my mother and Jessica, there was nothing, just a wall of angry silence. I knew that my relationship with them was likely shattered beyond repair, and I found that I was okay with that. Some things are not meant to be fixed. That weekend, Liam took me out to my favorite restaurant to celebrate. To Chloe, he said, raising his glass. The queen of cancelled cruises and the master of her own destiny. I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. I could not have done it without you, I said. You were my voice of reason when I was losing my mind. You had it in you all along, he said, smiling. They just pushed you hard enough to finally let it out. So, what is next for you? I pulled out my phone and opened a real estate app. I have an appointment to see a condo on Tuesday, I said, my voice filled with a hope I had not felt in a long time. It is small, and it is not in a fancy neighborhood, but it has a little balcony. And it will be all mine. The condo was perfect. It was a one-bedroom place with big windows and a small, sunny balcony just big enough for a chair and a few potted plants. The day my offer was accepted was one of the happiest days of my life. I used the $40,000 from my savings, plus the extra $1,000 from my dad, for the down payment. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork, packing, and planning. I did not hear from my mother or sister. Aunt Diane told me they were not speaking to anyone, consumed by their own anger and humiliation. The story had apparently ripped through the extended family, and the consensus was not in their favor. They had lost more than a vacation. They had lost respect. The day I got the keys to my new home, I walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It was mine. That night, I ordered a pizza, sat on the floor of my new living room, and ate it straight out of the box. I looked out the window at the city lights, feeling a sense of accomplishment that was deep and profound. I had stood up for myself. I had fought for my future. I had taken back what was mine. They had thought I was a doormat, someone they could use and discard. They had learned, in the most public and expensive way possible, that they were wrong. The relationships with my mother and sister were broken, perhaps forever, but in their place, I had built something new, a life of my own, on my own terms. That night, in my own bed, in my own home, I slept like a queen, and I did not feel a single ounce of guilt.